Previously, we would have looked at the concept of the subject of the formula. You can look at that video so that you'll get an idea of what the subject is all about. We went on then and continued with looking at transposition, how to make the subject of the formula, or how to find the subject of the formula using transposition. Today we are continuing that series by looking at the subject of the formula under algebra, but today we're looking at how to deal with multiplication and division when finding or making the subject of the formula. So what is today's aim? Today we are basically deriving the subject of the formula when the wanted terms are being either multiplied and or divided by each other. And by wanted term, don't get confused there. When I say wanted term, all I'm referring to is the unknown. So the wanted term will be our unknown. Let's go. Before we get into it, I think it's imperative that we first understand what are the multiplication notation. Not all the time when doing algebra, especially finding the subject of the formula, you will see a multiplication sign. So let's get that out of the way. So firstly, 4 times 5, we know that's 20. And here we clearly know that multiplication is taking place because we see that multiplication sign there, right? Then we have here 4 times n. And here we have an unknown. We need to understand now that this here is the same as 4n. Therefore, when doing algebra, when you see a 4 followed by an unknown, it is understood here, or it is known that there is a multiplication sign between these two. At the same time, I must say that only applies to a number and an unknown. So if I have 4 times 5, I cannot have this like this. I cannot write 45. If I write 45, I am writing a numerical value. That's 45. This here is not saying 4 times 5. We need to understand that is only applicable for a variable and an unknown. So that's 4n. 4 times 5 cannot be 5, 4 or 4, 5. That would be 45. Take note of that. Good. Then we have, of course, we could have two unknown variables being multiplied, two unknown constants. So here we have n times m. N times m, and that is the same as nm. You could say nm, and once you say nm, that means that you are multiplying. Multiplication is taking place here. Although there is no sign, there is multiplication taking place there. And last but not least, and this one is pretty new maybe out there, not much persons would have known this perhaps, but another notation that you should know when that denotes that we are multiplying is this here, a dot. So if you see n dot m, this is also telling us that multiplication is taking place. Or of course, you will see nm again. Take note. Division. Understanding division notation when doing algebra. We also have to understand how do we know when division is taking place, and let's go straight to it. We all know the division sign. That's division. 20 divided by 5. That's equal 4. We could compute this. These are all integers, right? But then you could see this. 20 divided by n. And n here now will be an unknown. This could similarly be written as 20 divided by n. 20 over n. And lastly, we have it like this. Two unknowns. So h divided by k. Or you could have h over k. H in the numerator, k as the denominator. And that's just notations. These are things that you know. Well, you should know, but I don't want to take anything for granted. Sometimes we ask students to find the subject of the formula and they simply do not know whether something is being added, multiplied, or divided because of the notation. So let's pay attention to that. Let's go. Moving on. Now just look at the rule. Making the subject of the formula. How do we make the subject of the formula when dealing with multiplication and division? Well, guess what? It's really straightforward. And the rule goes as simple as this. If you want to get rid of multiplication, we divide. And that's all there is to it. We divide by whatever it is that we want to get rid of. And if we want to get rid of division, simply we multiply. And again, we'll be multiplying by whatever we want to get rid of. In the previous videos, again, I would have said we addressed the whole concept of the subject of the formula. And here I will emphasize it again. The subject must have or must portray 3 specific characteristics. It must stand alone, it must be positive, it must be in the numerator. So this is two other strategies that we now know to assist the subject from standing alone, being positive, and in the numerator. So with that in mind, let's get on to some examples, and hopefully this will help us to appreciate applying these rules that we just looked at. So here we are asked to make h the subject of the formula, and here I want to note that we can be asked to do different things, but they could be saying the same thing. For example, you could hear or you could see, make h the subject of the formula. That's one way of telling you, okay, let h be the subject. But other ways you could see it, sometimes you see the question, for example, you might see GH is equal to 14, and then you might see for H. If you see for H, they're simply asking you, okay, make H the subject of the formula. And last but not least, sometimes they could just tell you, find H. Find H. And if they ask you to find H, it simply means make H the subject of the formula. Which reminds me of a joke. At the time I saw a child, they said, okay, find X. And the child just pointed the letter X. They thought I was literally asking them to locate X. But yes, that's one thing you need to know. So if they tell you find H, they're just asking you to make H the subject and not to just locate it. So don't circle it, don't underline it when they tell you find H. It simply means make it a subject. And by making it the subject, what we are saying again, we want the H to be alone, positive, and in the numerator. So let's go through these 4 examples, and hopefully at the end of the video you will get a clear and perfect picture as to how to go about doing this. So let's do number 1. Let's look at the solution. So here we have GH is equal to 14, and remember we're making H the subject. H here is bounded by a multiplication sign, as we did earlier. Remember, G times H is the same thing as GH. What does the rule say? To get rid of multiplication, we divide. So what are we doing here? We are dividing by G. G is the one we want to get rid of, so we divide by G. And remember what we looked at earlier when we look at equations. Whatever we do on one side of the equation, we also do on the other side of the equation. So this G will cancel off this G because we divide. That's what division does to get rid of multiplication. Division nullifies multiplication. Multiplication nullifies division. So this here will give us now H is equal to 14 over G. And that does it. Story done. That's our answer. H is equal to 14 over G. And how do we know that's our answer? Because the subject has everything we want. Remember, we go back here and we ask the subject, are you standing alone, H? Yes, I am. H, are you positive? Yes, we addressed that earlier. There is no sign here, so we know that it's a positive sign. Is the H in the numerator? Yes, it is. Because if I have to make H a fraction, it will be H over 1. And that makes it a numerator. And just like that, we have our answer there for the first one. Moving on speedily to the second one. Here, this one is a little tricky, but again, it's very straightforward. Here we have 2 H's. And we know when we form in the subject of the formula, one of the things we establish is that the H must stand alone. But here we have 2. So in order to solve this problem, the first thing we need to do is make them 1. How do we make them 1? Simple. This H here is being added with this H. And this is algebra, but I'll use a simple reference so that you'll understand. Let's imagine the H represents marbles. So if I have 3 marbles and somebody here has 1 marble, the H alone is simply representing there is a 1 that is understood in front of that H. So if I have 3 marbles and somebody has 1 marble, how many marbles we have combined? And combined here because we add in. So the answer here will simply be 4H. So 3H plus the 1H, that will give us 4H. And now we have H how we want it. 1 represented H. And that's what we want. But now we want to make it the subject. It is still not, it is positive, yes. It is in the numerator, but it's not standing alone. It is accompanied by the 4. So we want to get rid of the 4. How do we get rid of the 4? We divide. Why do we divide? Because again, we're going back to the rules. To get rid of multiplication, we divide. So here we divide by 4. We divide by whatever it is that we want to get rid of. And in keeping with the laws of equation, whatever we do on one side of an equation, to keep it balanced, to keep it steady, to make sure that we don't change anything, we do the same thing on the other side. So we divide here by 4 to get rid of the 4, and because we divided here by 4, on the other side we divide by 4 too. Fair is fair. So this 4 here will cancel this 4. As a result, leaving our h standing alone. And it so happens that on the other side we can compute. So 12 divided by 4 will actually give us 3. And that is our answer. So h is equal to 3. And as we did in the previous videos, we can prove this. If we go on top here and we replace h with 3, we will see that we will get 12. Think about it. Remember, this is 3 times. Remember, 3h is the same as 3 times h. So that is 3 times 3. Oh my God, I should have shown you earlier too that when we have brackets, we are also multiplying. I ignored that, or I took that one for granted. So we have the multiplication sign, we have two variables kissing each other, and sometimes we have a bracket. Well, and the dot, as we look at it. Sometimes you have the dot. The brackets also denote multiplication. Please remember that. Right, so if we go to solve this, we will see that the answer indeed will be 12. All I did here, I replaced h, I replaced the unknown h for what we found h to be. We found it to be 3, so I replaced everywhere I see h, I put a 3. So 3 times 3, that would give me 9, and 9 plus this 3 here. Oh my handwriting is wacky today. Bear with me, I'm learning. So 9 plus 3 will give us our 12 here. Good? So we know that this is correct. And this is just a way to prove our answer. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 now. Again, we continue in our solving. We're making h the subject. And notice here now, the h is being divided by t, and that is equal to q. So, going back to the rules, to get rid of multiplication, we divide. To get rid of division, we multiply. So here we have division taking place. So to get rid of division, we have to multiply. What are we multiplying by? We are multiplying by what we want to get rid of. And remember, we want the h to be the subject. So what we want to get rid of here is the t, so that the h could stand alone. And as always, going back to the rules of equation, whatever we do on one side, we do on the other. So I multiply this side by t. If you want to make it nice, you could put the t over 1 as a fraction. So t multiplied by h over t, and because we multiply this side by t, we multiply the q by t also. Remember, what you do on one side, you also do on the other side. So this t cancels this t, and that would leave us with the h alone. Or if you want to put the h over 1, same thing, it doesn't matter, the 1 is not a must. And h is equal, in this case, to qt. qt. Nice name, right? I actually know a child by that name. qt. Or if you want to leave it as q times t, same thing. If you want to leave it as q dot t, so let's go. You could leave it as q times t. You could put it qt. If you want, if you have time, you could put q dot t. Or as we just looked at there, you could put q, and in bracket, you could put t. I mean, you don't have to go through all that. I'm just showing you the various notations that you could apply, right? So qt, q dot t, and qt. They are all the same thing. I'm saying the same thing here in 3 different ways, right? Well, 4 different ways, because you have 4 times t here too. Right, moving on. The last one here, we want to make we want to make h the subject again. And here, the h is being divided by e. 2h actually is being divided by e. And in this one, I like this one a little because we have to actually apply both rules here, one at a time. So first of all, I want to get rid of the e. As my teacher told me once, whenever we find the subject, we have to be patient. We have to walk away from the subject towards the subject. So we have to get rid of all distractions, all surrounding distractions. So let's get rid of the e first. We're starting away towards. So to get rid of the e, we have to understand that it's been divided. And the rule is very simple. To get rid of division, we multiply. So here, I will multiply e. E multiplied by 2h. I'll have 2h over that same e there. And that's equal to f. And I multiply that f by e. Remember, whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side too. So on this side, the e will cancel the e. And that would leave us with 2H equal to Fe. I don't know, but for those of you all that might be doing chemistry, I think Fe is supposed to be one of the abbreviations in the periodic tables. I have no idea, but you might be able to tell me better. Who knows? Right, but we ain't finished yet. The H is still not standing alone. No, the H is with the 2. And what sign is between the H and the 2 here? Multiplication. What does the rule say to get rid of multiplication? We divide. Remember, to get rid of multiplication, we divide. To get rid of division, we multiply. So here now, we divide by 2. And because we divide this side here by 2, we also divide over here by 2. And whatever we cancel, well, the 2 will cancel the 2 here, and that will leave us now with H equal to Fe. That's what we have on the other side. Fe, this F look like a T. Fe divided by 2. And that is our answer. And again, we could always verify by looking at the subject. Is it positive? Yes, it's positive. It is understood there is a positive sign here. Is it in the numerator? Yes. This is the same as h over 1. So numerator at the top, denominator at the bottom. And is it standing alone? Evidently. There is nobody else with the h but itself. So that's the h there. So this will bring us to the end of today's video. So again, feel free to go through it slowly. Feel free also to share, like, and subscribe. You can send this video to somebody that you know might be struggling with this topic. And look at the previous ones so that you would see the lead up towards the multiplication and division. Notice also that, well, you will notice that as we move on, each process or each step will require understanding the previous one. And then you would also see that there will be a combination. So they wouldn't always just ask you to find the subject of this just like that. Sometimes you will have to transpose. Next video you will see that we have to do cross multiplication, and sometimes there is a root. So bear all these things in mind, and we'll see you next time. So like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day. God bless.